This is Stephen, and this question is testing your knowledge of radicals and exponents when it comes to decimal numbers. The question reads, if f of x is equal to the square root of x and g of x is equal to x squared, which inequality is true? Now, looking at your answer choices, they all have 0.9 and 1.1 as inputs for the two equations above, and the inequality goes from least to greatest. Now, what did I mean by input? So f of x equaling the square root of x, this right here refers to the input. So we'll be putting values in for where the x is located. So f of 2 is equal to the square root of 2. So let's take a look at our first options for f of x, or we'll look at the options for f of x. So we have f of 0.9 and f of 1.1, which in both cases are the square root of these values. So the square root of 0.9 and the square root of 1.1. Now, since you don't have a calculator, you cannot get the exact number for these two values, but you can evaluate them compared to the square root of 1. Now, the square root of 0.9 is not going to be larger than the square root of 1, because 0.9 is less than 1. So you know that it's going to be a little bit less, or somewhere close to 1, but still less than. So the square root of 0.9 is less than 1. And then for the square root of 1.1, you know that this value is a little bit larger than 1, so it's going to be somewhere above 1, so greater than 1.1. Now let's look at g. So g of 0.9 and g of 1.1. So we are squaring both of these values, and when you square decimals, you can take the decimal places out. So just remember that there was a decimal place here and a decimal place for these things. So 9 times 9, 11 times 11. So 81, put the decimal places back, you get 0.81. 11 times 11 is 121, put the decimal places back, you get 1.21. So in the grand scheme of things, you can now evaluate where these values fall. 0.81 is going to be less than 0.9. So we need to have g of 0.9 as our smallest value. So we can quickly eliminate answer choices A and C because of that. And then 1.21 is going to be larger than 1.1, so we need that as our largest value, but g of 1.1 is in all cases, so we can kind of ignore it. But now we need to evaluate where 0.9 and 1.1 fall. So we already did that by determining that the square root of 0.9 is less than 1 and the square root of 1.1 is greater than 1. So the square root of 0.9 is less than the square root of 1.1. So g is our smallest. We've got that figured out for here. Then 0.9 needs to be our next value, which is here. So B is our correct answer.